Another day, another conversation. Very excited about today's or this afternoon's. Kyle Bailey, CEO of NuVinAir, is going to be sharing his story with us. And right now, as we've shifted the conversation, the way that we've titled this one is hashtag the Great Return. No, we are not going to take credit for creating that, because I don't think anybody should take credit for creating any hashtag, because nobody's invented a hashtag. And hashtags are meant for community. So Kyle, glad to have you as a part of our community in this.
Nick, Charles, thank you for having me.
So why don't you open it up? Frame the company, frame what's going on from a business and franchise standpoint. When we were just talking off air, you're talking about how busy you are, and I'd love to start that framing, especially as we get into what does the Great Recovery look like.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, COVID is obviously the thing that's on everybody's minds. And, I got to say that our company and our mission statement has always been solely focused on providing security to the vehicle health space. So, certainty that if I open a door from an Uber or if I buy a car at a dealership that's pre-owned, that it is a healthy vehicle. And we've been really, focused on that, the patented technology in this space and growing out our network and the relationships that are being built and all the business opportunities and the verticals that are in the automotive space. But through COVID, what we were doing and being progressive and really growing our brand has excelled that growth, because, now from the current present time, everybody is aware of vehicle cleanliness or cleanliness in their life, whether they're using hand sanitizer more, or spraying stuff down as it gets to the door, being on stay-at-home order like I've seen my wife do as groceries get delivered. Our times, I think, are permanently changed. And because of that, NuVinAir's brand has completely emerged, because we are the best solution to the vehicle health space and have built a complete certification model in every vertical of the automotive industry to provide that to the retail location. So when the consumer comes in, they know that they're buying a NuVinAir Global certified vehicle. It's interesting. But I think that, times are not going to change from this point. Everybody's going to be very health conscious, and we're going to treat life a little bit differently based on what COVID has done. Whether you look at an economic standpoint, business standpoint, hygienic standpoint, it has changed a lot of things.
Yeah, Kyle, I mean, that's a big statement. I think no one could doubt that. The times are not going to change. I mean, you're in what I find so interesting, and I don't know why, but as you were speaking, I'm reflecting on one of Steve Jobs' old speeches where he talked about, what led him to Apple and all these other things. And he's like, you don't know at the time, but when you look backwards, you could see all the dots connecting. And then I'm thinking about what you've created, your brand, right? This whole integrated system. And I'm sure pre-COVID, there's always a customer education process of here's what we do and here's why. Yeah. And now for your competitors out there and everyone else who may want to say, well, Kyle was lucky. No, these stepping stones. I mean, but as we go through COVID, we know so many things, whether it's how we value our lives, our purpose, our business interests. You now have a fundamental shift in how every consumer is going to view the interior of a car, sanitation and cleanliness, that you couldn't accomplish in 100 years of education. And the perceived luck is that this is going to benefit you. But what I find so interesting is that you've built up for this over time with technology. And if you could share a little of at least connecting some of those dots backwards of how do you now have one of the most perfect post-COVID products?
It's hard to say that your journey through life or creating a company or growing a brand or running a franchise is luck. For me, and I think NuVinAir Global was kind of built off the passion initially. It was based off of an industry problem. And the problem really was reflective around odor and the impact on gross margin that has on vehicles. And if there's an odor in my vehicle and I can smell the previous owner, just like if I walked into a house, opened up the door and I could smell the previous owner or see pictures on the wall, I'm out on that. That's somebody else's house. That's not my house. And so it was really a personal experience. And, being in automotive consulting at the time, that kind of kicked me in my why. And I think that's what you're getting to, is that, when I bought a pre-owned truck and a day later I took it back home and my daughter slid in and accused dad of smoking when it wasn't me that smoked, and the guy sold it to me, said that it wasn't a smoker's truck. I guess passion got fueled with a real serious problem, and how to take that problem and drive it on further to create not only a profit center through a dealership, and how all those pieces work, but really to the consumer benefit of making sure that this issue or this happy car buying experience doesn't occur. We want to solve it. And I guess that passion is what made me purchase out the company is working on, and really slow walk on building the IP, because knowing that the technology and all the patents that we have now globally was really layers upon layers of structure and conditioning and a vision that wasn't current to the present time. And if you look at our patents and you go back to our patents and you look at the second claim on our first patent, it talks about emerging viruses and pathogens that don't exist, because I saw NuVinAir as a potential solution on every vehicle. So nobody had to have uncertainty opening the door way beyond odor. And because of that, to your point, I think that you got to look at that journey as an iceberg. What people think is luck at 10%, 90% below that was a lot of structuring and conditioning. And all COVID has done for NuVinAir Global's brand is fueled the innovation in which we started, has created better opportunities and bigger partnerships than we could ever imagine. And to your point on the prior to COVID, there was a sales process, there was an education process. We were changing the mindset and the thinking of all these automotive businesses, dealerships, rental car facilities, recon establishments, and teaching them, hey, speed up your efficiency with our patented technology, but at the same time, increase your customer happiness in your car buying experience or your car rental experience by providing them certainty and security that this vehicle is new every time they open up the door. And because of COVID, you can say that paths collided, and the work that we put forth in the foundational aspect of building it through a franchise model, really giving that important business relationship to all the locations, regardless if it's small, medium, or large. That's a value that we hold dear, and we built this entire company first off of IP and protections, because you can't go in the market space without doing so unless you're going to flood it consumer retail. And because we got those patents, we put in the legwork, it gave us the ability to slow down as a company and really design the program to correctly jump into the marketplace. Now, COVID, it's opened up a whole nother opportunity of things that we weren't looking down. And because of the structure we put forth at the beginning, it's given us this ability to pivot during a downtime when a lot of people are closing their doors, and allow us to step up and be that emerging brand, which we're going to come out of this, as I see, 10 times more known, definitely, than we were prior to COVID.
So obviously, Kyle, you're having great success in the moment. You're one of the good stories that are happening in here. Perfectly positioned, consumer positioning is there. There's a need in the marketplace. Take me back to March 15th. Is there ever a point where you had everything's going to be doom and gloom and was able to recover and say, wait a second, it's going to be much better? Was there ever a moment where you said you had pause, what is happening?
Yeah, I mean, it's those dates for everybody. I think, when you talk to a lot of concepts, it's, before 9/11, right? There's these certain milestone critical moments, I think, in life that we're going to continue to walk through. And it's how do we learn from those moments and make sure that if something in the marketplace, such as a disaster, a natural disaster, an attack, a virus that nobody saw coming, well, we saw glimpses of it, but we didn't know we didn't know what was going to happen. You got to set up the structure regardless of your industry, regardless if you're in the vehicle health space or if you're in the food industry. You got to set up those moments of, wait, okay, we have this contingency plan to slide over here, and there's going to be a lot of learning, there's going to be a wave of understanding, but at least we have this structure set up. And I think that that's the awareness piece that a lot of businesses that are closed down right now, that are suffering, that are struggling, we got to take the learning from this moment. And to kind of answer your space is that March, I don't think we saw what was coming. This was a weird one for everybody. When you look at COVID, nobody really, all the habits, my family habits have changed. but you got to either look at a few different options when you go through these waves or these storms, whether it be as a company or as a franchisee. And you can either go backwards, close your doors, or grow and learn. And we're on that grow and learn side.
Kyle, what's been the experience of your franchisees through this process in terms of downturn, opportunity, future leadership that you're guiding them on? What's been their perspective?
We as a franchisor, as a company, I deem the term, so I call them NuVinAir pillars because we're a global body, and we've really yoked our way of profit. We're not a royalty-based company, et cetera. So it's based on product pull, annual requirements within exclusive territories that are fairly large. So we're all yoked on the same pay plan and the same pay structure. So it really brings the innovation and stuff during these moments of really yoking that communication with our franchisees. And so initially, as this happened, I think that the initial fear for a lot of people was finance. And so, we brought experts in the franchise field to run some conversations and some meetings initially right off the bat on the fly about some of the PPP and all the other programs that we saw change every day kind of thing. But we wanted to educate them as well to provide security there. But at the same time, we've launched NuVinAir Cares program, which is growing in popularity and is just awesome to watch what is happening in our marketplace on a time like this. And we can talk about that a little bit. But, for us, yoking that communication, putting in the structure of saying, even at the corporate office, where we used to have individual department breakout sessions and then come back for our annual or biannual or bi-monthly meetings as a corporate team, we are now, and we put this in place right when COVID happened and the stay-at-home order existed, regardless if it's over-communicated or not, we'll make that decision as we go down the path. We put in a 10 o'clock all team, every single hand on deck call. Every person gets to speak on that in a half an hour, and then a 4 p.m. follow-up call. We have the structure in with our franchisees. We have a corporate call led by our COO every Tuesday as updates on the what's currently going on. Obviously, COVID's presents some other stuff. And then really try to yoke the communication with their sales team, our sales team, and bridge the gap. We try to do that initially because we've really built our company on that communication and support. What's happened, if I found, or looking at it 30,000 feet, it's given us the ability to have that contingency plan that excels past where a lot of people are thinking of how am I going to get out of this moment when it's going to end. We're thinking of how can we make sure we get to all facets of this moment because it's presented so much opportunity with partnering with hospital workers, police, ISP, et cetera. And our franchisees have completely adapted to that. It's been awesome.
I would imagine some of the pivot, and disclaimer on that word every time I say it, that I hate the word pivot now. Yeah. But the pivot that happens, like I was talking to a friend of mine who owns a car dealership, and he's like, here's the issue. It's not whether we're going to be able to sell cars, it's whether we're going to be able to get the inventory. And so the pivot that he's going to go through is now he's going to amplify trying to acquire used cars because he sees like there's going to be a gap in acquiring the inventory that he's going over here. And the reality is your product starts fitting in nicely on that side, probably perfectly, because you think about the rental cars, you think about used cars, like probably the first thing anybody thinks about, well, they look at the car from the outside, but the first thing they think when they open up that door of a used car is what does it smell like inside? So like there's good sales opportunities here, but then you start thinking about other things like, all right, well, all the car insurance companies in discounts back on premiums because people aren't on the roads enough. So there's probably like real-time pivoting that's happening within you too, right? Yeah.
No, there's a lot of that going on. We because we put the structures and really went through, it wasn't easy. We didn't go sales first. We went IP first initially back in the present days of when the patents and everything were going through. We didn't allow VCs to come in and control the direction. It was just my partner and I, we self-adhered that storm. And I think because of that, it's created this structure and this platform that, during these times we get to do stuff like that because we control the decision-making and collectively as a body, we listen to everybody too. And so, yeah, I think that the auto industry is one. I mean, you look at rental cars, there's we've heard of people claiming that they've gotten COVID from getting in a rental car, which is horrible for large brands that I'm not going to name on this call. So what used to be an education, we knew the cars needed to clean, but we never competed in the market space of just finding the cheapest product and the quickest solution. We compete in the product. Let's give you the best, the easiest, and let's make sure that it's a profit center and a retention opportunity to grow with the global dominant leader of the brand of vehicle cleanliness. And I think what was, you say the average sales cycle, especially from the ground up, I think was average 8.6 touches to even get a response. What's happening now is national accounts and large opportunities and new franchisees. I mean, it has flooded us. And so we're in a different space for sure, but also we have to keep to the same mindset that this is a long-term company and not a short-term wave. And I think that thinking, it's hard to do in a COVID because you want to grab everything. You want to grab anything that can kind of leverage you up. But we try to stay, and I try to keep my corporate executive team to this philosophy that no matter the high and how successful your franchise is doing, no matter the low and the storm, you got to stay at a zero balance regardless, because that's where the focus comes, regardless of the storm. And I think that's where we're at with COVID, is everybody's in the storm phase. And for us, it's been an opportunity to really help people, which nourishes the heart and the passion of this company and why we created it.
It's always good to see that good effort gets rewarded, right?
Yeah.
So I love that. A couple of things. One, from a technology standpoint, you built on a foundation with your patents, your technology, but then even in looking at the website, the way you built in your product line, the way you built in the relationship with the franchisees. And in many ways, that's exactly the way franchising should work. You got technology, you got patent protection, you're building up and really seeding and seasoning these markets. And the good news for you is a balanced approach now, because I'm sure you'll get competitors entering the space, but now you've established a foothold in this. And for your franchisees, that they must feel good about that. I'm sure you're getting a ton of inquiries. And quite frankly, I mean, even in a franchise sales discussion, whether it's with franchise brokers or prospective franchisees, you could see when a brand has substance and when doesn't. And I'm sure one of the first things you talk about are the patents and the technology.
Yeah, I mean, it's the truth. If we didn't get that structuring set in place, then the only decision would be go as fast as you can, consumer retail, bring on VCs, which changes the direction and what the vision was of this company. And because of that structure, it's definitely given us the ability to move at a steady pace, not grow too fast, not get out of our realm because we need to, but really look at what we're trying to do in the layers of growth. And to the patent piece, we had to defend our patents. And it's one thing to create and get a patent strategy going and get your first patent. And now we have a lot of extensions and the PCT, which gave us a global blanket to go enter in those markets too, which we've done because we had a long-term vision on this company. But when you have to go defend your patents, it's a whole different ball game. And we did that last year, in a time that was difficult for us because we had a distributor model going. We converted into the franchise world. And I know that it's as an attorney, I think, Nick, right, is a franchise. It's a lot of work. And when you have to go through that war, in a sense, and then step up to the bat and prove that your patents are stable when there's a challenge and get a federal injunction in the short period of time that we did, it snaps a rubber band to the marketplace and lets them know that we're serious. We're not into wars, we're into partnerships. And that's how the company's been built and established, is those relationships, not only from the corporate office to our franchisees, but from their sales guy to a technician. I want everybody to know that NuVinAir Global Brand is the best, not just on the product side, but on the relationship and support side. So it's been interesting. We are in a very unique spot, but at the same time, we stay at ground zero with this and really look at it logically and how are we going to merge our brand even further, but at the same time, help people that are struggling and in need. And that's where the NuVinAir Cares program came from an idea to full-blown operations across the country.
Kyle, has the dream changed at all? I mean, you think of the way that people dream about what they want to accomplish in business. COVID hits, it obviously dips a little bit, but now with the volumes that are coming in, where you say like touch points used to be 8, now it's a half. Does that change the dream? Now, does that increase the potential that comes out of this? You know, when we're at operational.
Yeah, the vision was always to be, and provide confidence in a healthy commute pre-COVID, right? And now that statement, which is our drive, provide global confidence in a healthy commute, regardless of the transportation. That's a lot to accomplish. And so there is really no end to that accomplishment. I mean, it's beyond my generation. It's going to be beyond the generations below me. I truly believe that. And so, I think that, the vision hasn't changed. Has it given us, different places where what maybe what was a big rock initially has now shifted? This is the big rock. Absolutely. In fact, we have some great things kind of going to be announced in the next couple of weeks to our franchisees first, and then kind of extendedly out. And that was all done during COVID. We learned a couple things that we want to do and to really even further that domination. And I think and my team is the same way, that none of us sleep. We are very addicted to the global mission, which is providing security and healthy commutes to everybody, especially now.
Kyle, you use the term big rock. Does your internal team follow traction or any strategic planning that you guys are really?
Yeah. I mean, you got it. You got it. If you start focusing on gravel, you never get to your big rocks.
That's it's good. Yeah, it's great to hear. At our law firm, I mean, I think it's transformed us over the past 5 years.
Right.
But you're, and again, there's a lot of franchisors and professionals out there. While there's dark moments, and Nick and I talk often and strategic planning, and we had a great session with Annie Duke, but from a strategic planning standpoint, literally before I got on this call, we had our education call and our core values call. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that I'm proud that we did it. I'm not proud that it took a pandemic for us to really rev up and drive this.
Right.
And, just like you, I mean, I found that when we're going through traction and rocks that I thought weren't going to get to until Q4 are now getting achieved, after. Yeah. So I mean, and that's great to see from a management team for a franchise company. So what does the value proposition for your franchisees change after this? I know there's enhanced value, which is, hey, you now have a consumer base that's pre-educated, and probably everyone who wants their car treated over the next couple of periods. But as a franchise brand, are you seeing other opportunities in the franchise space? Or just that?
Yeah. I mean, that's always been the thought. I mean, the thing is there's so much that we can do. You got to focus, to your point, you got to focus on what's going to get to the next cycle. It's easy because we're such an opportunity-rich company. We were prior to, but opportunity-rich doesn't mean great execution or the opportunity goes to a full-blown partnership, because what happens in that mind thinking is there's so much, it gets you scattered not to focus on those big rocks. And I think that what's happened, I know for our company, we have some big rocks set that we were fully focused on, that we pivoted during COVID. And how I think of it, it's like looking down a microscope at a speckle of dust, and it looks huge, and then you pull back and you're like, gosh, that's not important right now. This is important. And you got to have that philosophy and thinking, regardless of the recipe to make a franchise successful, you have to not just rely on that solely, and always, as a leader, as an executive, as a business operation, as a support manager, regardless, think about, how am I going to further that? How am I going to grow that? How am I going to challenge in a challenging time as a company, give back? And I love seeing some of the franchise companies I've seen do that. Like, okay, we're a restaurant concept, but what we're going to do is provide food to people that needs it. That's where relationships and longevity happen, right? Having those stories and those experiences with those people on the ground provides a long-term partnership and relationship. And we have that now going all over the country, and it's rewarding for me. Even as the busy day, it's hard to sleep right now. But at 2 a.m. to scroll and see these pictures of our franchisees with arms around police officers and their canines standing in a cyclone in the vehicle. It's rewarding to me to see, my franchisees have my cell phone, or we're not hiding from anybody. We're fully accessible, everybody on my team. And obviously there's a challenge to that too, but talking to my franchisee out in Virginia, and we had an idea, and that idea now has blossomed into this NuVinAir Cares program, and seeing a partnership that he worked 8 months on, potentially knowing he had the best opportunity, knowing he had the best product. And to your point, in the industry, you have a lot of snake oil and false promises, and we said we're never going to be that. We're never going to jeopardize anything in our company for short-term gain. We're always looking at long-term solution, long-term strategy, and that comes with being steady, living with integrity, having integrity sewed down the core of your company, and making sure that those relationships matter. And seeing these pictures of our franchisee organizing a full-blown operation with a partnership that he's now has with a major group because of it. They went out, they had frontline workers in a full-blown operation to support the hospitals. And it was a kick to his heartstrings too, because of some health challenges that his child had at one of the hospitals the year prior. So he got to give back to all those hospital workers, at the same time grow his brand, at the same time help people. And our commitment to that was, we're going to sponsor it. I don't care what it's going to take. We'll make it happen. So uncapped right now, you make the operations happen, and we're going to provide the product free of charge. We're going to do that. And so that's what really started this NuVinAir Cares program. And now it's blossoming into dealerships utilizing the NuVinAir treatment to frontline workers to bring them back in the drive. Now there's a dual opportunity there to service their car and build in some of those other services, but give them that tangible vehicle health experience. My hand's up every time. Let's do that. Let's get that going everywhere. And that's what keeps me up. I think that's what keeps a lot of our guys up right now, and girls, is knowing that there's so many people that need help out there. But at the same time, it's really yoking this brand and creating this emerging opportunity for us, And it wasn't on the radar. It wasn't on the radar prior to COVID. So, thank you for COVID for kicking us in that direction.
Charles, do you want to frame final thoughts?
For me, getting to your theme of the return, look, from a very simplistic viewpoint, I approach each day where I want to see the good guys win. And it's nice to see everything Kyle put in place and the brand and winning. And I, so for me, it just feels good. It feels good to see it. And you can't fake the passion, Kyle. Everyone's watching this. They know it's genuine. No one can fake this. But you know what else is great to see, though? If you didn't take the time to think this through and build out a real product and a real value proposition, like you said, you'd be in a mad race right now, just throwing product and chemical from wherever it's found. So for me, it's like, again, I'm hopeful that post-COVID, you can't fake it. And I think this is an example of a brand that's not faking it and is going to do well. So I think that's
good. Don't try to avoid the wars. Go through them. It creates a lot stronger team alignment with your franchisees. Don't try to hide the wars. Go through them. Be open and transparent with the communication that exists. And that's how you grow a long-term franchise brand. That's how you grow a long-term company. And that's how you make a position as an emerging brand in the marketplace. And thankfully, it's what's sowed in our company, and we're not going to sway away from it. We're always going to challenge ourselves, and we're going to go straight into the eye of the hurricane if it means that we're going to help people.
Kyle, we definitely appreciate the story. Thanks for sharing it with us.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I'm jealous of two things. One, that you were able to hire an interior designer to create the perfect webinar backdrop. Whoever organized that behind you, kudos there. And secondly, the fact that you get to have a haircut, maybe because you live in Texas and I live in Chicago, but I don't get it.
No, it's so here, that was steps I put in play at 14 years old when I got a bad one. I said, I'm never going to allow that to happen again. So I look pretty shaggy as of 4 days ago when Amazon finally delivered my clippers. I'll tell you that.
Yes. All right. So then I'm jealous that you are the best self-groomed man in America too. So.
Okay. I appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Kyle, Charles, Thank you so much for this conversation. Another great one. Kyle, we wish you the best of luck as you continue to navigate.
Thank you guys for what you do and giving a platform for the voice to be heard of the franchise world. It's a passion, and I think we got to look at this time differently as a franchisor or a franchisee. How are we going to make sure that that business and that model that was a vision a long time ago doesn't stay stuck in the past, but emerges to the future, because there is a need for business ownership. There is a need for entrepreneurs to step up and jump into a franchise with the security of an emerging brand. So I appreciate what you guys do in giving that a voice.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, Kyle.
All right, guys.
Have a
Great
great
weekend. See ya.